Good day, everyone. So we are going to discuss another topic under Management Advisory Services review subject. And that would be responsibility accounting and performance measures. And ngayon, mag-start tayo with some theories. And after that, let's try to answer some true or false questions and 13 na problems. So let's start the discussion with the two general forms of management. These are centralized and decentralized. If the firm requires the top management na sila yung gumagawa most of the decision-making activities and they control most of the activities, that is what we call centralized form. Normally, yung president or owner ng company, sila yung nagde-decide or nag-run ng business. Kapag naman decentralized, ang isang organization is divided into smaller firms. Normally, we call it divisions, segments, or departments. And minsan, itong mga divisions na to, subdivided pa into smaller na mga units. At bawat unit in an organization, merong responsible officer na performing managerial functions. At sa decentralized form of management, ang nagde-decide dito ay yung mga lower level or middle level managers. Delegated ng top management sa mga subordinate managers yung decision-making activities. Again, pag centralized, most of the decision-making activities kay top management. Pag ito, delegated into lower level management. Pero alin nga ba dito yung mas okay na style of management? The answer is actually depende kung gaano kalaki ang isang business. Pero most of the businesses are choosing decentralized form because they find it na mas effective in a bigger organization, especially kapag multinational yung companies. Pero why do they choose decentralized form of management? Because of these advantages. Number one, there is enhanced specialization. Yung mga managers or responsible officers natin dun sa mga units ng organization, they are actually specialists. At yung mga managers na yan, since sila ay nakatutok dun sa kanilang kanya-kanyang mga departments, they become experts in their particular areas. So that's number one, enhanced specialization. Number two is training. Ang training naman, that would be for lower level managers in preparation for their possible na future higher position. So nasasanay sila to decide to perform the managerial functions in their respective areas. So sooner or later, they will be ready to be part of the top management as well. And that will keep them motivated also. At saka iba, kapag nabigyan ka ng responsibility, you are assigned to be in charge. Iba yung motivation na sa mga empleyado. And number four is, there is defined span of control. Ito area mo. So, ibig sabihin, very clear na ito yung mga responsibility mo, ito responsibility ng ibang managers, and so on. Another thing is, since delegated sa mga lower level managers, yung mga decision-making activities, yung top management, they will have more time to spend para sa mga strategic planning ng company. And faster decision-making. Siyempre may mga issues ang mga departments na hindi naman ganun kalaki that they can actually resolve on their own dun sa sarili nilang department. So, instead na makarating pa sa presidente bago ma-resolve yung isang problema, so agad-agad na-actionan. Mas mabilis, faster decision making. So, these five are among the advantages of a centralized na form of management. Kung may advantages, meron din disadvantages. Pero let us call it more on challenges. Kasi these advantages can actually be pwede man ma-overcome. Kaya Challenges siguro, number one is, gusto mo hatiin into different divisions yung organization. There are different managers. To be sure na talagang mag-continue yung performance ng maayos, you need to put there competent people. Ang challenge dito is, competent people, mahal sila. So, ang lalaki ng sweldo ng mga yan, so costly talaga in the part ng organization. And another thing is, ang hirap hanapin. Sometimes misleading yung mga resume or CVs. Kaya nga, normally they look on the qualifications like their previous work and so on, just to know if the people or the managers are competent. So, minsan, pag nahanap mo na sila, ang hirap din nila i-keep. So, yun. So, that's number one. There's a need for competent people. That's a challenge. Number two, ayan, to be sure also na everything is in place, everything is performing well, dapat meron kang measurement system na consistent sa objective ng organization. So, medyo matrabaho, and costly also because of the reports that you have to submit to the top management. Siyempre gusto nila makita if the company is really doing well despite na hindi sila yung directly nagmamanage ng lahat ng tungkol sa organization. And the third one is, ito yung ayaw natin mangyari, sub-optimization. Since managers are motivated, kasi there's a chance that they will become part of top management soon, sa sub-optimization, minsan, ang napupush ng mga managers ay yung mga sarili nilang interest. Kasi they want to perform well as their respective departments para sila mapili na maging part ng top management. So with that, minsan, nagsasacrifice yung hindi na nagbe-benefit yung entire organization dun na sa mismo department na lang. So that is sub-optimization. Well, in responsibility accounting, ang objective kasi talaga natin dito is what we call goal congruence. Pag sinabi mong goal congruence, hati-hatiin mo man yan into different divisions, kahit iba-iba ng managers, iba-iba ng objective, bawat manager depende sa kung anong responsibility center nandoon sila, they are all working towards one goal. Yun ay para sa buong kumpanya or organization. Alright. So now, speaking of responsibility centers, i-discuss natin ngayon yung 4 na responsibility centers na meron ng organizations. Kahit gaano karaming divisions yan, they can be classified into 4 responsibility centers. These are cost center, revenue center, profit center, and lastly, investment center. So yan ang pag-usapan natin ngayon. So let us now discuss the 4 centers or responsibility centers in an organization. So different divisions are classified as to cost center, revenue, profit center, or investment center. Okay? So here are the 4 responsibility centers. Itong cost center, ang role niyan is really to incur and control costs lang. So from the term itself, ang objective nito ay to minimize, of course, the cost or control the cost. And then, ang revenue, walang ginawa kundi mag-generate ng revenue. Ang profit naman, nag-generate ng revenue, nag-incur ng cost at the same time. Okay? At ang investment center naman, nag-generate ng revenue, nag-incur ng cost, at nag-invest at the same time. Okay? So, pag sinabi mo nag-invest at the same time, itong center na to, they can actually acquire, they can utilize, and they can dispose fixed assets or PPE based on their decisions. Now, sa 4 na centers na to, 3 lang dito ang totoo. Yung isa, hindi. Ibig sabihin, sa theory na lang nag-exist yung isa dyan. So, alin diya yung mga yun. So, tingnan natin. Ang cost center, one good example ay huwag tayo lumayo, accounting department. So wala naman tayong generate na kahit anong revenue. We just incur costs, yung salary ng mga accountants, the supplies at use, and so on. Kasama na rin yung production department. Nag-incur yan ng cost. Anong example ng revenue center? Wala. Kasi, the fact na meron kang revenue, meron cost yung revenue nun. So, ibig sabihin, ang revenue center, sa theories kasi na itatanong pa yan, sa mga exams minsan na itatanong. Pero in reality, hindi naman po talaga nag-exist ang revenue center. What exists ay itong profit center. Pag nag-generate siya ng revenue, may cost po at may mga expenses. Imposible na meron department na revenue lang pero walang cost. Okay? So, anong example ng mga profit centers? Pwede naman magbanggit ng mga companies like 7-Eleven, yung mga branches ng 7-Eleven, ng Family Mart, branches ng Family Mart, those are profit centers. Okay? They just generate revenue and then they incur costs at the same time. Pero yung head office ang mostly nagde-decide what PPEs or property, plant, and equipment na ilalagay nila in their stores and so on. Investment center naman. One good example ay SM. Ang SM, yung mga branches ng SM Santa Mesa, SM Malibon, SM Manila. So those SM na mga malls, under pa rin sa umbrella. Pero they can actually invest. They can do investment. They can acquire, utilize, and dispose PPE anytime. So, para siyang stand-alone na company. Kaya minsan sa exam tinatanong, ito yung stand-alone na as if stand-alone na company na center. So that would be investment center. So sabi natin kanina, divide into different divisions. But how do we make sure that everything is performing well? So how do we monitor? So, for cost, paano ba natin nalalaman kung maayos ang performance ng isang cost center? So, through the use of variance analysis. So, what do we do with the variance analysis? We simply compare the budget versus the actual. So, kung mas malaki yung actual, ibig sabihin unfavorable yan. Pero kung mas malaki ang budget, ibig sabihin favorable. Mas malaki ang actual, mas maraming gastos kaysa sa plano ng company. Okay? But how do we measure the performance of a revenue center? Same lang din. Variance analysis can help. So, budget versus actual ulit. So, meaning, pag mas malaki ang actual ngayon, since ito yung revenue center, ito naman ay favorable sa company. So, baliktad ang ating analysis sa revenue at cost. Okay? Eh, kung profit center ang i-measure natin, saan ang gagamitin natin na monitoring or measurement system? So, we're going to use still variance analysis kasi may revenue, may cost. So, we can still perform variance analysis. Again, compare the budget versus the actual. Pero normally, ang pinaka-tinatanong dito ay pinaka-bottom line ng performance ng profit center, which is yung kanyang profit, yung operating profit niya. Okay? So, ang objective dito is to maximize the profit by maximizing the revenue and trying to minimize your cost. So, variance analysis. For investment center, pwede ba ang variance analysis dyan? The answer is, of course. Dahil meron siyang revenue, meron din siyang cost. So for some parts of the investment center, we can make use of variance analysis pa rin. Okay? And since meron siyang investments, kasi nag-i-invest yan, hindi na enough yung variance analysis alone. So, the company or the companies are using some other measurement system. Number one is ROI, Return on Investment. Yung iba ang ginagamit ay RI, Residual Income. At yung iba, C talaga, EVA, Economic Value Added. Okay? So, Economic Value Added. Okay? These are the three most commonly used na measurement system sa investment center. Okay? So pag-uusapan natin ngayon through the use of some theories, true or false, problems later para mas maintindihan natin ito. Okay. Pag-usapan din natin, ano ba yung pagkakaiba ng ROI, RI, at saka EVA, or Economic Value Added. Okay, now, let us differentiate ROI, or Return on Investment, Residual Income, or RI, EVA, or Economic Value Added. Okay, so take a look at this. So we have our sales for an investment center, and then we deduct all the total expenses na directly attributed to the center. So we come up with the operating income. At ang operating income na to, in responsibility center, mas tinatawag siya na segment income. Okay? So palitan muna natin ito ng segment income. This is actually your profit as well. Kaya naman, ang ROI dito pala nagbe-base. Okay? Sales minus total expenses, yun yung ginagamit natin na numerator sa ROI natin. So tawagin lang din natin siya na segment income. This is SI. Okay. So that's the first one, ROI, return on investment. By the way, return on investment is also your return on asset noon sa financial statements analysis. Itong investment na to, these are the contributed capital, the contributed assets, but make sure these are all your operating assets. Okay. So, ano naman yung residual income? To arrive at your residual income or RI, you have to deduct the imputed interest. Kumbaga, sige, kumita ka nga dito. Pero yung kinita natin, since ito ay investment center, investment, ibig sabihin may nilabas tayo na fund dito. So, ang fund pwedeng galing sa utang, nag-issue ng shares, or galing sa retained earnings natin. Ibig sabihin, hindi libre. So, sa residual income, gusto nitong ma-identify magkano yung income after mo i-deduct yung cost ng capital natin. Or after mo i-deduct yung target na income ng organization. So this is what we call imputed interest. For example, 1 million ang investment. So 15% pala ang cost of capital. Wala namang ibang sinabi, 15% lang. So 150,000 ang ima-minus natin to arrive at your residual income. Kaya mas stricto ang residual income kaysa sa segment income. Minsan, kumita ka ng 12%. Kaso, sabi ni residual income, ang cost of capital mo pala ay 15%. Sa totoo lang, wala ka palang kinita. Kasi kulang pa pambayad dun sa capital or fund na kinuha mo. Okay? So that's ROI, RI, ano naman si EVA? Si EVA is somewhat similar with residual income. Pero kung ang makikita natin na difference nito, yung segment income dito at itong after-tax profit, ang difference lang ay i-multiply mo to ng 1 minus the tax rate para mag-arrive tayo dito. Okay? So, kung nasa Pilipinas tayo, if the problem is silent, 30% ang ginagamit natin. So, the after-tax profit is equal to your segment income times or your earnings before interest and taxes, or operating income, or segment income in this session, segment income times 1 minus tax rate. Okay. Ima-minus natin yung weighted average cost of capital or cost of capital, kaya lang naman naging weighted average because there are multiple sources of funds. Multiply natin ng investment. Kung tutuusin, itong dalawa na to ay halos parehas. Mamaya makikita natin yung difference ng dalawa kung meron man. Pero karaniwan parehas po sila. To arrive at your economic value added. Kasi ang gusto ipunto ng EVA or economic value added, even if that is your segment income, sooner or later, you will be paying taxes kasi kapag may income tayo. So, the true value added is yung after-tax profit na yung na-consider natin. At the same time, the cost of capital is also after tax. So that's EVA, that is RI, and this is your ROI. Okay. Now, we are going to show yung ano ba yung itsura ng performance report na usually ginagawa kapag isang profit center or investment center. Ibig sabihin, parehas lang kasi sila sa portion na merong revenue and cost. So, merong part na magkamukha sila. Yung pinakita natin na una, ROI, RI at TEVA, ay para lang sa investment center. Ito naman ay para sa dalawa. Okay? So, we have the sales minus cost of sales. We have our gross profit minus all your OPEX. We have our operating income, or sabi natin kanina, tawagin na, sige, operating income. Eh, ang COGS at OPEX natin is either fixed or variable. Ilagay mo lahat ng variable sa taas, so that would be variable and fixed, variable and fixed. Ilagay lahat ng variable sa taas, sales minus your variable cost. So what do we have now? The contribution margin. And then minus the fixed cost, we will have now the operating income. Kumbaga nire-arrange lang natin yung mga costs or expenses natin. So, contribution margin approach. This time, importante in segment reporting to identify if the costs or the items are controllable or non-controllable or direct and indirect. Kasi iba ang pag-evaluate ng officer, iba ang pag-evaluate ng segment mismo. Pag in-evaluate mo yung segment, lahat ng directly attributed doon, inire-report natin. Pero pag in-evaluate mo yung managers, only those that are controllable by the managers would be included in the report. You cannot blame the managers for the things that are beyond their control. Hindi mo naman din sila bibigyan ng reward kung hindi rin naman nila effort yung mga magagandang nangyayari sa company. So, ibig sabihin, again, pag officer, yung mga controllable. Pag segment, yung mga direct. So, let us show in this performance report. Sometimes in the exam, hindi contribution margin ang tanong. Ang tanong ay manufacturing contribution margin. So what we are going to do is sales minus the variable manufacturing cost. In that case, yun po yung tinutukoy natin na manufacturing contribution margin. Okay? So, hindi pa na-deduct yung mga non-manufacturing variable costs. If you deduct the non-manufacturing na variable cost, that's the time that you will arrive at the same na contribution margin na nandun. Okay? So, be careful with the question. Minsan na contribution margin pala ang tanong, pero nasa unahan yung word na manufacturing. So, meaning only the manufacturing na variable cost pala ang i-deduct natin. Okay, so this is your contribution margin. So, kinokopya pa lang natin. Now, ang fixed cost natin could either be lang natin. Ang fixed cost natin either direct or indirect. Ngayon, sa mga direct natin, hindi pa lahat controllable ng managers. May mga items na controllable, may mga items na non-controllable, direct fixed cost. Kaya ang gawin natin, isa-isa natin i-minus. So, unahin natin i-minus yung mga controllable na direct fixed cost. Okay? So, what do we call now the income that we have? Bago mag-operating income, may ilang income muna tayo masasolve. So, that is controllable margin. Okay? Minus the controllable direct fixed cost, we have the controllable margin. The next that we deduct is non-controllable direct fixed cost. So, non-controllable direct fixed cost. So, we arrive at what we call segment margin. Ayan. So, very specific. Direct pa rin. So, lahat ng nandun ay direct cost to arrive at your segment margin. Pero, meron pa tayong hindi naman minus, indirect fixed cost. So if we deduct the indirect fixed cost, that's the time that we arrive at the same operating income that we have. Meaning, ito yung mga allocated na cost o yung mga common cost natin. Okay. Kapag manager ang ine-evaluate, dito ka titingin sa controllable margin. Used to evaluate the officers. Pero pag ang ine-evaluate naman natin ay segment, dito tayo titingin. Okay? Segment. At itong operating income na dito sa ilalim, that would be your share in the entire operating income of the organization. Okay? So, may mga ilang tanong pa tayo rito na in theories like, lahat ba ng controllable ay direct? True or false? The answer is true. Kasi kung makikita mo, controllable, lahat ng items doon, lahat doon ay direct. Pero pag pinalitan natin, all direct are controllable, the answer is false. Kasi merong mga direct pero non-controllable. Anong example niyan? Depreciation expense. Direct fixed cost yan, pero hindi natin nakokontrol. Okay? Ano pa yung example nitong non-controllable direct fixed cost? Yung salary ng mismong officer. Hindi na pwedeng kontrolin. Kasi kung kayang kontrolin, tataasan mo masyado. Pero, that is still direct fixed cost. Okay? So, this is the suggested format ng ating performance report. And sometimes pala, ang controllable margin is also known as short-run performance margin. So kapag tanong sa exam, controllable margin, short-run performance margin, or what is the income that will be used to evaluate the performance of officer, ibig sabihin, you are asked to compute for the controllable margin. Okay? Pag tinanong naman, yung income that will be used to evaluate the entire facility or entire department. So, ang pinatanong talaga sa atin ay to compute for the segment margin. Okay? So, now, I think we are ready to solve some problems and to answer some true or false questions first. So, true or false muna tayo, and after that, problems. Okay, let's start. Okay, now, let's answer some true or false questions here. So, pag true, yung green, false, ang red, para mas madaling makita. And, konting explanation or wala nang explanation kapag true, kapag false, sabihin natin kung bakit to mali. Okay? So, I'll give you mga 3 seconds after each statement para ikaw muna sumagot. And then afterwards, I will reveal the answer. Number 1. The manager of an investment center is responsible for generating revenue as well as controlling expenses. Answer. True. Pag titignan mo yung statement, parang kulang. Yung may kinalaman sa investment. Pero, wala namang mali sa sinabi niya. Na talaga namang nag-perform, nag-generate ng revenue, and nagko-control din ng expenses ng isang investment center. Yun nga lang may additional na function pa. So, hindi mali. Okay? Number 2. Ano sabi sa number 2? A successful responsibility accounting system must have reasonable separation of costs into their fixed and variable components, since fixed costs are not controllable and must be eliminated from the responsibility report. Okay. What's the answer? Tanggalin daw ang fixed cost. False. Kasi kasama sa report natin lahat ng direct cost. At ang fixed cost ay, meron po tayong mga fixed cost na direct. Meron mga controllable, meron mga non-controllable na fixed cost, pero direct pa rin. Okay, example ng mga na controllable fixed cost, yung sweldo ng mga supervisors. Pero example ng mga non-controllable pero direct fixed cost, yung sweldo ng pinaka-in charge, ng responsible officer. Okay? Kasama pa rin yun sa report ng responsibility center. So, hindi mo pwedeng tanggalin. Ang hindi kasama, yung mga indirect cost, yung mga allocated, yung mga common na cost. Okay, number 3. In responsibility accounting system reports, when using performance evaluation, should not include allocated fixed manufacturing overhead. So what is your answer? True. Kasi allocated. Na-mention natin kanina, indirect. So hindi po siya kasama. Number 4. One disadvantage of decentralization is that lower level employees will develop less rapidly than in centralized organization. So the answer is false. Baliktad. So actually, more rapidly ang development ng lower level employees in decentralization, okay, compared to centralization. So this is wrong. This is false. Number 5, please. The manager of an investment center cannot improve ROI by decreasing the amount of inventory. What's your answer? It should be false. Check natin. Ang formula ng ROI para ma-improve, para tumaas, so ROI is segment income over your investment. Kasama sa mga investment natin yung inventory. So kapag binabaan mo ang inventory, what will happen to your ROI? Tataas. Kaya naman, mag-improve. So, this is wrong. So this is false. Number 5 is false. Let's go to number 6. The basic objective of responsibility accounting is to charge each manager with all those controllable costs and or revenues directly traceable to the segment. So the answer is true. Okay? Tulad na sabi natin kanina, kapag officer, controllable. Kapag segment, direct. Ito po ay controllable cost ang sinasabi. So therefore, this is true. Okay. Number 7. One of the disadvantages of decentralization is that delegating authority to managers may make conflicting decisions. The answer is false. The idea may be correct sa part na to, pero minsan English ang labanan dito. Advantages. Disadvantage po siya, hindi po siya advantage ng decentralization. So be careful, tama yung idea, itong part lang na ito yung mali. Alright. We are on number 8. Let's go to number 8. Basic salary of factory workers is not a controllable cost in a manufacturing concern. What's your answer? It's false. Because kasama sa illustration natin kanina, nandun siya sa taas. Lahat na nandun ay controllable. Kasama po yung salary ng factory workers. Pwede naman nila damihan yung number of hours. Pwede naman nila damihan yung product so that maraming number of hours. So talagang controllable po generally yung ating basic salary ng factory workers. So that is false. Okay? Number 9. A center that incurs costs and expenses, generates revenues, but does not have control over idle funds used for investment purposes is called a profit center. Oh, sorry, na-reveal ko agad. So the answer is true. Tama lang. Okay? So, yun naman yung difference ng profit sa investment center. Yung part na ng investment. Okay? Number 10. Residual income as used in evaluating the performance of investment centers is the excess of return on investment over a targeted amount equal to an imputed interest charge on invested capital. So, yung formula natin, segment margin, imputed interest, we have residual income, tama ba yun? So, the answer is true. So, parang yun yung solution natin. Okay? Number 11. The imputed rate used is ordinarily the target rate of return on investment set by the company's management and should be equal to the weighted average cost of capital or discount rate. Okay? So, segment margin, imputed interest. So, dapat ito daw ay itong rate na gagamitin mo to get the imputed interest is equal to weighted average cost of capital. It should be equal. True or false? The answer is false. Kasi, the weighted average cost of capital or cost of capital is just the minimum required rate of return. The management can always set higher than the minimum. Maaaring yung minimum may 10% pero ang gusto niya 15% ang kanilang target rate of return. So, it is false because of this part. It could be, itong should, pwede palitan ng could be equal or may be equal. Pwede na po siya maging true. Okay? Next. The invested capital employed turnover rate would include profit in the numerator. Turnover daw. Lahat ng turnover, ang numerator natin ay... Ano ang sagot pala muna natin dito? The answer is false. Pag turnover, sales po ang nasa ibabaw niyan. So, hindi po profit. Okay? Kasi kung profit po ang nasa ibabaw, tapos ang denominator mo is still investment, so that is actually ROI. Okay? Next, in a manufacturing firm, supervisory salaries are least likely to appear in a performance report from a manager of one of the firm's production departments. So, least likely to appear ang supervisor salaries. The answer is false, of course, because sabi natin kanina, supervisors' salaries are controllable at direct cost. Okay, so that would be part of the report from a manager. Alright. Number 14. A firm earning a profit can increase its ROI by increasing sales revenue and operating expenses by the same percentage. So what is your answer? So, increase natin ang sales revenue, increase natin operating expenses, same percentage yung increase nila. So, what do we have? Do we increase the ROI? Pag tinignan mo ROI, profit over investment, so ang mukhang related sa nag-uusapan ng IC profit. Same percentage ng change ng revenue at expenses. So, what is your answer? True. Hindi po siya no effect. Hindi po siya the same. Kasi, sabi rito, a firm earning a profit. Ibig sabihin, yung magnitude ng sales mo, mas malaki sa magnitude ng, or absolute value ng ating mga expenses. Ibig sabihin, kung same percentage yan, mas malaki yung increase po ng ating revenue. Kaya, that would increase your profit. So, tama po, that would increase your ROI. Haba ng explanation pero true. Okay, number 15. Fixed costs can also be controllable. And some costs not controllable may need to be assigned to a responsibility center. Mukhang alam na natin sagot. It should be true. Sabi ko na rin kanina na meron tayong mga non-controllable direct fixed costs. Alright. Next, number 16. The salary of the department manager is a direct cost of his department but not controllable by such manager. Mukhang na-mention ko rin kanina, kaya mukhang alam na natin ang answer. And the answer is true. Imagine kung ikaw yung manager, ikaw yung department officer, tapos ikaw yung may control ng sweldo mo, magkano kaya ang sweldo na isa-set mo para sa sarili mo, diba? So it should be controlled by the upper level na position or manager. Okay. Next. Uy, haba ng konti. ROI is subject to numerous possible manipulations of the income and investment amounts. Income and investment, numerator income, investment and denominator. So that a manager may decide not to invest in a project that will yield less than the desired rate of return. Or he or she may defer necessary expenses to improve his or her center's ROI. Sige mo, 5 seconds. So your answer is true. Okay? So, parang binigay na dito yung, nag-explain na naman, pero true. Binigay na dito alin yung mga i-fix natin, pero yung ROI mag-improve pa rin, and so on. So if you defer the expenses, meaning tataas ang profit, so ROI will increase, and so on. So tama po yan, huwag na natin kontrahin. Okay. Next, number 19. Oh no, number 18. One of the accounting tools for controlling and reporting for cost, revenue, profit, and investment centers is a budget. So what's your answer? True. Kasi diba, lahat ng centers natin, pwede natin i-applyan ng variance analysis. And variance analysis include budget versus the actual. So budget really is an accounting tool for controlling and reporting for all these centers. Okay? And number 19. Property tax expense for a department store's store equipment is an example of indirect, non-controllable cost. Property tax expense. So what is your answer? The answer is false. Kasi una, tama na non-controllable. We cannot control the property taxes. But that is not indirect. That is actually a direct cost. So without the store equipment, there will be no property tax expense. Therefore, that is a direct cost. That's another test for direct cost. If you remove the segment, that would also be removed. Alright. And last item. All other things remaining constant. If division increase its investment turnover, ROI will also increase. What will happen? Okay? Remember DuPont. Lalahanin si DuPont kung anong sinabi niya, ROI is equal to investment turnover times the profit margin, or pwede rin na investment turnover times the return on sales. So, pag tumaas ang investment turnover, what will happen to ROI? It will increase. So, the answer is true. Okay? So, those are the true or false questions that we prepared. Answer pala, hindi na-reveal. That we prepared, and then after this, we're going to answer the 13 problems that I prepared for you. Okay? So let's start.